that. So I am Evelyn Watts. I lead product marketing for Shopify's e-commerce section of products. I've been there just over a year, and what I wanted to do is share with you some things I've learned over the course of my career, because I haven't always been in product marketing. I am in product marketing. I am in the right room because I actually have been through the engineering side, the product development side, the management side, sales. I've also done sales enablement. So I can say with complete confidence, deep in the heart of my stomach, is that there is a really serious truth about people really don't care about your features. I thought I would be classy about it and hit the right button. And just be very clear that nobody really does give a fig, again, being polite, my mother might see this, about your features. And that's because nobody cares about features. They really don't care about your benefits. What they really do care about is that you understand their problem so deeply that you can help them solve it, and only you can help them solve it. I'm going to be honest with all these friendly folks in the room, is that I didn't really know what product-led meant before this conference. And yes, I did accept a speaking opportunity at a conference called Product Led, so that's a little awkward. But I'm not embarrassed about it, because what I do think that we can do is we can learn. And what I do want to do is also share. And one of the things that I know that for any company, because we're all starting at different places, our products may be what they may be, we may not have the option of changing them, but how can we work with what we have to get to a state where we can be product led? And one of the things that is deep in the heart of the DNA of any product company is the belief that if you build it, they will come. And the problem with that deeply held belief is that it causes at least 3 serious misconceptions that are blocking your way. The first is this misconception that product-led is actually product-first. And you can tell if you're a product-first company because your website probably has a laundry list of features on it. Because what you care about is people knowing the thing you built. What they really want to know is the problem that you're going to solve for them. So product-first is, all right, well, the slides didn't quite convert. We'll get to that at the very end of why that didn't happen. And it's going to be back to features. Product-first is not the same as product-led. And this is a great example of one of those things that has many, many definitions. So depending on who you ask, what they think product-led is going to be different. The second misconception is that what you have is for absolutely everybody. That's not true. Imagine talking to everyone the exact same way. How you talk to your children would not be the same way that you talk to your boss. That would be a misconception. And the third one is that the proof is in your product. It's not. The proof is actually in your customers. They will tell you if your product solved that problem. They will tell you if you are successful. And those are the 3 things that the build it and they will come philosophy kind of misses the point on. So what I'd like to do is break it down for wherever you are or wherever your company is in the products that you have. I have had some experiences along the way that I'd like to share, because there's always an opportunity. There's absolutely an opportunity. I don't like the word problem or challenge. It's always an opportunity to have an impact and make change. So the first thing is going back to the recipe book. So the features that we have are really ingredients in the end product. Adding more ingredients does not always make a tastier meal. I've explained that to my husband a couple of times. We're working on it. So one of the things is to take a look and go back to the idea of features are not the product necessarily. The ingredients are not the meal. Taking a look at what you put together, also how you present that meal, and ultimately the end experience. So if you think of a fast food joint and having a burger at a fast food joint is a very different experience than having it at a 5-star restaurant. The price is also going to be significantly different depending on where you serve it, but it is ultimately looking at the entire experience of the product and how people consume it and experience it and ultimately love it. So I'm going to go through 3 reasons or 3 examples where you can take something and make an improvement on it. And why maybe there's a reason someone isn't necessarily listening to you or isn't necessarily caring about the next new thing that you've just released or the next new thing that you're going to bring out. And opportunities that you can perhaps take back with you and think through where you are and what you could possibly do next. And to do that, I like to use pictures because they're just so much more fun than using all the words. So reason number one. There's not really enough context for the thing that you're releasing. I currently work in a SaaS environment. I've worked in other SaaS companies as well, and we are developing all the time. And one of the challenges is if you're releasing new features, you're releasing new product, but you're not explaining what that means or what it's good for, you're making your customers do the math and connect the dots in their head. What do I do with this thing? Why should I care about this thing? What problem is this solving for me? I don't care how fast and new and lovely it is. Make it meaningful for me. Give me some context. So there was a situation I had, how many years ago? 3-4 years ago now, where I joined a small SaaS company. They built performance management software. So an HR was their customer base, very small to medium business. And they had just recently moved to SaaS. So they went from on-premise to SaaS about 4 years earlier in their history. And I'll be honest, after I accepted the job, and the job was to come in and essentially reframe their products, because the messaging on their website was, we have 9 products, we have these catalogs of learning courseware, we have all of these services, and it really, it actually looked like a takeout menu, because you didn't know what you needed, and figuring out what problems you solve versus what I should buy was a huge barrier for our sales teams. And the other challenge that they were experiencing is because they had a roadmap that was not really going to deliver any new features. They had 2 years of infrastructure retooling to deal with. So there wasn't an opportunity to build the next product. They were working on the current one they had so it could scale. So you can imagine product managers were very frustrated because they couldn't show the value of what they were doing. Our sales team was absolutely worried that they weren't going to be able to sell the next new thing. And even our customers were like, what am I paying for? Because what we had sold them was basically managing the performance appraisal, the once-a-year review, and it was a compliance problem they were trying to solve. So they were paying for the software, they weren't going to get any new features for the next 2 years, improvements, but no new features, and they were paying for something that they weren't really using. So what we did is we took a cross-functional team, so we took all of those folks that were worried about what the future of the company and the product was going to be, and we started shaking things out. So the opportunity we had was to take all of these product features, all of this content, all of these services, and almost like Lego, put it out on the table and start mapping and grouping all of these things, these solutions together into problem areas. So switching it from a product first approach to a problem first approach. Because the ultimate reality is they only had one product. They didn't have 9, they had a platform. They had all these great capabilities that could solve different problems, but we weren't talking about the problems we were solving, we were talking about the things that we had. So switching to that kind of mindset actually was an opportunity to reframe all of the offerings that we had and redo our website. It actually influenced how we were selling, because now we weren't selling that once-a-year compliance problem. We were selling all of these solutions to different problems. The ultimate solution that people were looking for is, how do I make my business more impactful? How can I get employees more engaged? How can I start doing feedback more often? All of those things that would have had ongoing value, we weren't even communicating. And then the last piece had nothing to do with product, right? So we weren't building new features. What we had the opportunity to do is actually make the customer's life easier. Our HR folks, anybody who's ever been in HR, bless you, it's a hard job. If you've ever been to an HR conference, they know how to party, absolutely. We wanted to make their jobs easier, and their job was to get people to start using the software, start communicating, helping managers be less terrible, which is an ongoing thing. So we started producing these resources or these kits. So instead of them trying to create posters and trying to do all of these engagement things, we created basically a ready-made kit so that they could just use that within their company and help them be more successful. So none of this had anything to do with new development. It was just reframing how the products worked and what the value was to our customers. So maybe there's an opportunity right now to look at what you're offering and connect the dots for folks. Because starting with that feature first, where people have to figure out what this means, is just adding friction. If you can help reframe the value of what you're already offering, if you can solve new problems with the products that you already have and communicate that, you're going to do yourself a huge favor in terms of kind of moving forward and helping grow the thing and grow the product that you already have, as opposed to worrying about what you're going to build next. So one place that you can start. I won't make anyone admit it, but I did play Pokemon Go. Okay, I still do. I haven't turned it off yet. My kids had me start, and then it was a bit of a problem, so I had to uninstall it. I'm on level 34. It's okay. For those of you who don't know, it's this lovely video game. This lovely character is called a Pidgey, and you're supposed to capture it by throwing a ball at it. But in real life, not everyone's going to care, and not everyone's going to want to play. So another opportunity can be to actually, imagine every one of those balls is an email. And you guys have to decide, what is it important for me to pay attention to? Because there's no way you can catch all of that. And as marketers or as product growth leaders, we're all trying to message to people, right? So how do you get through that noise? This is going to be a little ironic because I just said not everyone cares. But I'm currently with Shopify. We've been here over a year, and it's a mission that I care very, very deeply about. I've also been a merchant, and I run my side hustles on the side. And I know how difficult it is to go out and be independent. The mission that we have, is that idea of making commerce better for everyone. It's a huge, broad statement, but there's a lot to unpack in there. So the idea of everyone is actually slices of everyone. So the idea of making commerce, well, what is commerce? It's very different depending on where you go around the world. You can have someone who's just online. You can have someone who's trying to run brick and mortar. You can have all sorts of different variations. Better than what? So really it's about what problem that you're trying to solve, not what is the next feature you're trying to build. And then the idea of everyone is actually a grouping of all different audiences. We have wonderful partners that build. We have folks who are just trying to start a brand new business. We have people who are trying to expand into new markets. We have people who are just trying to shop. How can you make buyers' lives easier, right? So when you unpack all of that, there's a ton of work that we can do, and each one of those audiences, we have to understand their problems differently, and we need to be able to communicate with them in a way that resonates with them. So the one message does not fit all. So this is the opportunity that we have now. I'm in a very high growth company, like really high growth company. I've been there a year and it feels like 10 minutes and 10 years at the same time. It's amazing. But we're now at a stage where there's a million everyone's. So there's a million different merchants, 175 countries, vastly different needs that we have to really start unpacking and understanding, because the one size fits all does not work. And how things are changing. And we all know technology is changing like crazy. We can buy with all sorts of different mechanisms. If I lost my wallet, which I did, not here, thank goodness, I can pay with my phone. Like all of these opportunities change the way we shop and the way we do business. So one of the things that we do very, very intentionally is talk to our merchants, talk to our partners, talk to buyers. There's an entire team of UX researchers. You don't have to have an entire team. You just need to have a phone, and you need to have email, and you need to be willing to talk to people. Or interviews, surveys, visiting them in their place of work, because what you don't want to necessarily do is ask them what they want. What you need to do is understand the problem that they're trying to solve. I mentioned this earlier. This is the exact same thing I used to say when I was doing sales enablement. And every salesperson wanted their own custom data sheet. I'm like, I don't have 1,000 hours in my day. And also, if I give you what you're asking for, it's not necessarily what you need. So how can I understand the problem that you're trying to solve, and we'll come to the right solution together? So the idea of going in and really deeply understanding, not necessarily the thing that they ask for, but the thing they're trying to do, the job they're trying to get done, is absolutely critical in how you speak to them, message them, and get that empathy. Because it's the most important way of being authentic, and not, I always like to say, never overpromise, overdeliver. So there's one piece of that. The other thing too, and this is, I think something that we're working through right now actually, is not just talking to your own current customer base, because those are folks you've acquired along the way. Your product has evolved, it's changed. Who is your next customer going to be? right? What do they need? So always making sure that you're not just looking inside your own building and having that bit of silo effect, but looking outward and understanding what's changing and what other things need to be done so that you can build the next best product and continue to improve. And then again, that idea of it's not feature first. Features are how you do the thing. What you want to do is talk about what problems that you solve and for who. And leading from there, your product then becomes the proof, right? Or the mechanism by which they can get there. Right? That's number 2. We have one more meme. Is it a meme or is it a GIF? It's a GIF. There's no words on it. Before we get there, that idea of repackaging what you already have is kind of the key takeaway for this point. Again, imagining that you can't build anything new, but you have a platform, in our case, a platform that can be used to serve different types of audiences. So it doesn't necessarily mean doing a laundry list of we can do all these things for everyone, because again, not everyone cares about everything. How many people use 100% of your product? That was actually not meant to be rhetorical, but I didn't really expect anyone to put their hand up. So in a case of a company that has a platform, just talk about what's important to that particular segment. So if someone is just selling in a certain way, or for instance, in our case, brick and mortar type merchant, what they care about is going to be very different than what the parts of your platform or the other services that you have. Focus on that. You can take the exact same product and slice it a different way and message it and repackage it for someone else. And with the advantage of that, regardless, they're actually working on the same platform. So the opportunity is for them to be able to scale in all sorts of different directions, but you don't have to sell them the entire thing up all at once. Just focusing on what they care about right now, and then understanding and anticipating what they're going to care about next. All right, so this is sometimes what a roadmap looks like when your product teams decide when they're done. That's sometimes what happens, and I've seen it many, many different times. The idea of delivery is not delightful. Comes down to timing is everything. So just because you're done building does not mean your customer's ready for it. And so having that kind of experience of, well, here you go, and you're pushing it out, can be absolutely overwhelming. This is another idea where empathy is absolutely key. So it's not just understanding how someone uses the product, but it's understanding their business so well that you know what time is right for them to adopt it, or in what manner they need to be able to adopt it. So another situation, and this is a culmination of learning opportunities that I've had over the year where I have a lot of, what? Okay, let's turn this around. And you may be experiencing some of this yourself, is if you're emailing customers every single time you have a new feature and you're emailing everybody, that's probably a problem, depending on how large your customer base is. If your product roadmap is more reactive than strategic, if you're releasing things without clear expectations because it's done, people will adopt it, you'll figure out if it worked. And the idea of setting the right expectations. So I like to think of it as all the way from the very beginning. So set the right expectations before they are even a customer, and then continue to deliver on those expectations. There's nothing more, well, there's probably many things, but there's some things that are very frustrating about getting something that is updated in your product and you had no idea what it is. It's interrupted a workflow. I was trying to do something else. And now you've added friction. Rather than helping them, you're actually hurting them. So in a case like that, there's been several things that have been helpful. And that is the idea of what is the value of that feature, not just the functionality. What does this mean, and how can you put that in the idea of, in the right context, and focus on the audience that you're talking to. Not everyone will care. Do you have to email everyone? Do you have to have updates for everyone? So thinking about when is the right time to communicate something and how you do that. Having teams work together, so much fun. And a lot of that takes communication. So quite often especially in larger companies where you can have different product teams are all building, but you're actually building into one product. So how can you make it so that everyone has some level of visibility across these different teams? Because at the end of the day, it's all going to the same customer. So having a coordinated effort, having the idea of release management. So just because it's done doesn't mean it's ready. We need these 5 other things done. And we're going to deliver a bundle that we're going to talk about the value of that thing, not just the ingredients in it. And the last thing, again, comes back to the idea of empathy. So not just understanding how they use a product, but understanding that the work they're trying to do, and understanding their business, because it comes back to that idea of knowing them so well and knowing what they're trying to do, that the empathy and the authenticity of what you're trying to help them with will come through. This comes back to kind of a story of how we make a meal. And my husband makes me dinner all the time. I'm very lucky. Very lovely man. I earned that dinner, just let's be clear. And the idea is he'll put together the ingredients. He has the right presentation. It's adorable and awkward plating kind of system he has, but it's beautiful. And he knows that I actually come home from a very hard day, and I get to drink wine, and I get to watch him cook, because he has empathy for my day, and he's happy to, to serve me this lovely dinner that is not always a 10 out of 10. And there's a reason for that, because I was told if I always get a 10 out of 10, I would never appreciate it. So occasionally a 2 out of 10 is required. And that's when we say that it was made with love. So dinner, sometimes love can be an ingredient, and luckily I'm a very loyal customer, So the idea of this takeaway is delivering the proof is actually a better experience. Your product won't necessarily always tell you that you hit the mark and that's the proof is there, but your customers will absolutely tell you. Whether it's through reviews, whether it's through forums or communities, whether it's through interviews or anything like that, they will tell you, because the idea is the proof is not in the pudding, the proof is in the eating. What is that experience like? What was that? Was it successful? Your customers will absolutely tell you. So the key takeaways for what has worked or opportunities that I've found in dealing with the product that you already have is look at how you can reframe that value. Are there other problems that you can solve? Are there other ways of communicating as opposed to all of the features that you've built? Shake it out on the table. I have literally sat down and taken scissors to a feature list that was 4 years long and mapped it all out. Their mind is very much required for that kind of exercise. But you can reframe it based on who you're trying to talk to and what problems you're trying to solve. Consider repackaging, so flipping it from a product first to a solution first, and talk about the problems and grouping things together that make sense so there's context for them. And finally, you have a customer base that can provide the proof for you. I could say how wonderful a product is, but it's so much better when someone else tells me that I've done it right. So as those key takeaways have worked for me, there might be opportunities for you as well, wherever your company is, because we're all at different stages. But the idea is that regardless of the pieces that we put into it, having the right ingredients, preparing the right kind of product or meal, and then ultimately how we deliver it. What is that 5-star experience, or is it a drive-through experience? Both can be perfectly valid, but they do come with different price tags. Because at the end of the day, it is that idea of a solution. A meal is not just the ingredients. So looking at the complete whole solution that you're looking for, because at the end of the day, that's what people are paying for, and they show that they'll come back to you. Even if it's a 2 out of 10, if you've built up enough loyalty, they will come back for that 10 out of 10 experience. So thank you. Oh, questions. Are you asking or am I reading? Okay, I'll read. Oh, we can all read, actually. Look, I'm looking at the prompter. Okay, so what is the number one thing to do in order to develop a product-led approach? I would absolutely come back to the idea of empathy, because functionality is only one way to look at it, but what is your customer trying to do? What are the jobs they're trying to get done? And how they think is so important in making sure that your product is delivering what they're expecting at the right time. It's a lot to get through, but basically it's a mind shift, right? It's not just a product shift, but it's a mental model shift within your company that is something that you have to kind of work through. So next up, what is the best way to get our users to talk to us about their issues? Honestly, asking. I know this sounds lame, but we have programs set up in our own offices at Shopify where I can listen into a support call anytime. I can listen in, we do recordings, I can actually call up and go and visit a merchant in their workspace. We've even had folks who will go and work with a merchant or work in a logistics company to understand all the other jobs, because it's not just software. We have time for one more question. Okay. Biggest failure or opportunity, and how did you solve it? I would say the idea of having 9 products, all this content, all these features, all of those things, and being able to shake it all out and flip it, it changed the way we marketed, it changed the way we onboarded and implemented customers, it absolutely changed the way we sold. It really did shift the company in a different way of thinking, solution first versus product first. So just that had such this network effect across the company that it was absolutely outstanding. So wherever you are, just start there, would be my advice. Okay, are you good for time? All right, and any other questions? I'll be here all day. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Evelyn Watts.